another episode of Share the Chalk, a basketball webcast designed with the intention to give coaches and players a platform to share their knowledge. As always, I want to start with my goal in beginning this webcast is to bring on individuals who I believe are truly adding value and will continue to add value to the basketball community and the coaching community. Today, we're fortunate to have one of the top assistant coaches in the GPAC on. Ironically, my freshman roommate up at Morningside. Welcome on, Trent Miller at Morningside College. Thanks for joining us, Trent.
Coach Hamburger, man, absolute pleasure being here. Love the podcast. Just thrilled to be on. Excited to get to work.
I want to first just start kind of with your journey, with your path. Where did you start? Where have you been, and where are you at now?
Yeah, so, I work with Coach Sykes. Coach Sykes has been here 20 years. In 2009, I graduated from Gretna High School. Coach recruited me to come play at Morningside. And so I played basketball at Morningside, was a point guard there from 2010 till 2013, and was pre-med, pre-physical therapy, biology, chem major, and then going into my senior year, just felt a huge calling that was not where I'm supposed to be, and that I want to be around kids. I want to be around the game. I want to impact people and help them, develop. And Coach was kind enough to allow me a fifth year to keep my scholarship and be an assistant. So that year 2014, I was an assistant, volunteer assistant for the varsity, and I was a head JV coach, which was just an awesome experience, being able to see everything behind the scenes, and then also being able to run kind of my own program with the JV guys. And I did that for a year, and then I took a full-time teaching position down in Elkhorn, Nebraska. I taught 7th grade science at Elkhorn Ridge for a year, and I coached basketball at Elkhorn High, and I was the varsity assistant for Elkhorn High. Really, really cool experience. I'm from that area, a lot of talented kids. So I did that for a year and got called back to Sioux City. And from 2016 to 2018, I actually was in ministry. I worked full-time at Sunnybrook Community Church. I worked with the college ministry there, and I worked with Briarcliff students, Morningside College students, Western Iowa Tech students, all based in the city. Wasn't around the basketball, for 2 full years. And honestly, within those 2 years, I had so many people pour into me from a leadership standpoint, and honestly prepared me for where I'm at now, which is the associate head coach at Morningside College. And so from 18 to now, I've been here, and just feel like I'm in the best place in the world. I love it.
I want to dive right into kind of your transition. You talk about, you played at Morningside for 4 years for Coach Sykes, and now you're working for him. First off, what type of player were you? What type of teammate were you? How would you describe yourself as a teammate and as a player?
Yeah. That's funny, because sometimes I look at the guys I'm recruiting and I'm going, man, I don't even know if I'd recruit myself. I was a very average high school player. I worked hard. I was kind of a pass first point guard. I think a positive attribute I brought to the table, I was kind of willing to do whatever it takes for the team to win. And some of that in my immaturity, the first couple of years, I was a decent teammate in that regard. But on the flip side, if you were a person that I didn't think could help us win, I would write you off pretty quickly. And it took me some serious growing up by my junior and senior year to kind of figure it out and to really lead like you're supposed to. And I was fortunate enough to be, a 3-year captain, and I took that very seriously. But by the end of it, and kind of where I'm at coaching now, is every single person has value. And there are so many things going on behind the scenes, and you learn this even as a teacher, that a guy might not have the best couple practices in the world, and it's not because they don't care, they don't want your team to be successful. They might be walking through some serious stuff, behind closed doors. And I just was never there early on wanting to figure out what that was or develop those relationships. I would just kind of dismiss it and move on to the next guy that could help us. Where by my junior and senior year, it was, okay, let's figure this out together. Let's walk through this together as a team. And we were better because of it, I believe.
And then do you kind of see yourself as a similar coach? You talked a little bit about it. What things did you have to change, or did you change anything from when you were a player and the characteristics you brought as a player and a teammate to now what you bring as a coach?
Yeah, as far as changing, it's that maturity and knowing my job as an assistant is just to serve my players in whatever aspect that looks like. And yes, we want to be successful basketball players, but more importantly, like, I want to see them grow, as men and mature and be able to handle adversity correctly and go on to be good husbands, go on to be, good fathers and that sort of thing. And so the big picture, I think definitely shifted from a player of being it's wins all to now as a coach being, if we can continue to develop and build these relationships and give these guys a second home and a family in our program, those wins are probably going to come. But the big success or the focus is not the win-loss column. It's how those guys mature overall.
Now, what were some of the biggest adjustments and challenges that you had to make when you went from player to very next year volunteer coach, maybe with some of the same guys that you had played with, probably a lot of the same guys that you had played with, then you had a little bit of a break away from the college game and then you were back to it. What were some of those challenges and adjustments that you had to make when transitioning from player to coach?
Well, I think first and foremost, when you're a young player and you get an opportunity to go into coaching, and if it's at the same program, yeah, there's a ton of overlap. I mean, some of those guys in that locker room that I'm now coaching, I had experiences with on the basketball floor and off the basketball floor that totally changed me as a human. Those things that I really cherish. But I had to make a decision that once I stepped on staff, and, Coach Sykes was very clear about this and very good about guiding me here. There had to be a division. I no longer was the buddy, the into everything, hanging out outside the gym. It was very much trying to be a professional and go about this because I was passionate about coaching. And so it was hard at times because some of my best friends were guys that I was coaching. But I think once I made those boundaries clear, they respected it. And then I was able to proceed forward and provide accountability and provide instruction from a place where they know it's nothing, it's all basketball specific. The second transition, I just think, was the amount of time. When you're a player, and Coach Gavers touched on this in one of your earlier podcasts, you get yourself prepared for practice, you get yourself prepared for the games, you go to work, you go home. It's not a 40-hour week, and everyone in the profession knows that. And I guess I didn't know. I knew my coaching staff, the guys that I played for, always worked very hard. I just had no idea what that entailed.
I want to move in to the recruiting piece now, because it's kind of, everybody says, and it's true, it's the lifeblood of your program. When you go out on the road to recruit, what things are you looking for in the players that you recruit, and how do you evaluate players? Maybe touch on some of those little things that sometimes are overlooked by coaches during the recruiting process.
Yeah, and I just think there are so many players out there that can put the ball in the hole, that can score the basketball, and that is a huge gift. I was never blessed with that. I'm very aware. So for us, that's not the biggest concern. Yes, we're going to need guys that can flat out score the basketball. Obviously, that's a part of the game. But the biggest thing, and one of the first questions we ask any coach that is affiliated with that person, and even when we watch, is does this player make those around them better by being on the floor? That's the first question. And if the answer is no, we're going to go find somebody that does. The culture that Coach Sykes has created, it's all about this selflessness. It's all about this team over me. And everybody talks about that culture and how fresh it is. But as fun as it is to create that culture, it's more important to protect it. And we need guys coming in that understand that. And if you don't make anybody else around you better, especially if you're not scoring baskets, if we take you scoring the ball out of the equation, what else are you doing? If you're not bringing anything else to the table, it's going to be hard for us to move you up on our board and make you a high priority. So that's definitely one of the first things we look at. Moving forward, to be frank, we love some length. We do. We try to have bigger bodies at every position. Within our defense, we force baseline, and we want to switch 1 through 4 on the perimeter. So for what we try to do, that's something that matters to us, is having some length at every single position and having some versatility. And then lastly, we're watching how the guys handle adversity, whether it's critical coaching, whether it's tough situations, if they're surrounded by a team that might not be on their level as far as skill, or development. How do they handle those situations? Is it, I'm still going to go get mine, I don't care if we lose, or is it, I'm going to fight, I'm going to lead, I'm going to do everything I can in order for my team to be successful, I'm going to bring guys along with me? Those are the dudes that step out and move and separate themselves, and guys that we really want here. Because if you get a room of those guys, and they're pushing each other and they want the best for each other every day, we think something special can happen. And I think any coach would agree with that.
And you guys have obviously had a lot of success and you're having a lot of special things happen. You guys are kind of on the brink, and I know you're trying to push through that wall and get yourself into that Final Four potential national championship type situation. And I know you guys will do that once you get those individuals on campus. You guys recruit a lot of 4-year guys. You sprinkle a
Yep.
transfer in here and there when you find the right one. Once you get those freshmen, those incoming freshmen on campus, from your perspective and from your experiences, what are some of the biggest challenges that those freshmen have to overcome in year one?
Yeah. That first year is such a challenge, and we can preach that throughout the recruiting process all day. We can tell them up and down, it's going to be tough. It's not going to go as smooth as you'd like. You're going to have days where you think you're the worst player on the planet. You're going to have days where you think you're the best player on the planet. There's just this roller coaster. The length of the year is so much different than that of high school. But we just laugh because, when you're in high school and, when you were there, when I was there, you don't know what you don't know. You still, as a player, as a competitor, you're going, I'm still going to walk in. I'm going to do my thing. It's not going to be that different. But yeah, one of those changes, one of the first ones that come to mind is just that length of the year. They've never experienced anything like that. And so, you'll see our conference, there are so many talented players and coaches, and you'll see a freshman come out of the gate and just be untouchable for the first couple of months. And we've had a couple of guys in the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden they'll go through like a month period where you don't see much from them. And part of it is, man, they might be banged up. The scouting has changed. They're starting to get different attention, and that can be really hard for first year guys to do it. And those are guys that are playing, you know what I mean? So they're already on the floor. So I think the length is definitely different. And the second thing is you look at the guys that aren't on the floor yet. So many programs have guys that are upperclassmen that aren't fortunate enough to bring in a freshman that's going to play right away. And it's pretty easy to see that if there's some transfer culture going on, that if it's not a fit or I'm not getting what I think I deserve right away, I might want to go see what else is out there, kind of grass is greener type of deal. But for our young guys, it's just such a key of trusting, believing in us, and having that patience and knowing that you're going to get your shot. You're going to continue to compete, but we're playing the long game. We want the best version of you possible when you step on the floor. And if it's not that first year, we can't run from it. And there's so much opportunity to grow from it. You had Shane Hennon on your podcast. Shane didn't play until maybe his senior year. And he played for a team that won conference titles and had great memories. Steve O'Neal is an All-American on that squad. Steve O'Neal played JV for us for 2 years and then was a first-team consensus All-American on that 2015 team. Those are guys who stuck with it and just kept putting the time in. And that's not easy. And that's not our culture right now. We want that instant gratification. We want that. And I totally understand where they're coming from. So we're very adamant about early on having these conversations with guys and building this relationship based on trust, love, and accountability, and letting them see that, you staying with it, man, just that next year where you're going to be and what that'll look like that year following. And man, what you could accomplish if you continue to do things right way. But that's definitely a challenge for our incoming guys for sure.
Nothing great happens overnight, and I think everybody who's had success will
You're
tell you that.
exactly right. You're exactly right.
And that's something
It takes time.
it's very hard. It's very hard to take on and to understand that. Gosh, I especially because the guys you're recruiting, they've had a lot of success in high school, and sometimes they've had 4 years of being the man. If I'm a player at the high school level right now, and I'm preparing myself for the college level, what can I do to better prepare myself to be able to come in and have success early on?
Man, if I'm a high school kid and I'm trying to play college, I think as much time as you can, if you can get around guys who have played at that level or are currently at that level, if you can find some runs during the summer and you can get around college players and pick their brain, I just think that's going to, the speed of the game is so different. You touched on that earlier, and the physicality is so different. So, I want those guys playing up. I want those guys around college kids as much as possible. If we're looking at a recruit, we definitely want them to come in and interact with our guys and play with our guys. And so if I'm a kid and I'm trying to prepare for that next level, surround yourself with guys who've been there.
Well, hey, Trent, I appreciate you
Absolutely.
taking the time. Associate head coach of Morningside College, Trent Miller. Thank you very much for taking the time. I know there'll be people who can take one or two things from this conversation and be better coaches, better people down the line. So we appreciate it and look forward to chatting with you again.
All right, man. Jake, always a pleasure. Good luck this year. Excited to follow Pitt State.